Hi, kids. Today I'm going to show you how to make a temperature graph. If you have not yet watched the building a moon percentage graph, you need to do that first because it's got the basic steps in how to make a sandbox and then be able to work with your data. And here's the moon graph that we built last time. And today we're going to take you through how to make a temperature graph with KFC on the y-axis and the date on the left axis. So to do this, we have to have the date on the left of all of this temperature data. So the way I'm going to do that today is I'm going to choose the entire row by clicking on E above here. Now I'm going to go to Edit and Copy. So now I've copied that whole date column. I'm going to go over here to G, and G is right next to my temperature data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on G, and I'm going to go to Insert. And I'm going to insert a column to the right of G. There it is. Now I can paste my date data right into here. So I've inserted this column and I'm going to go to Edit and Paste. And now I have an additional date column. Now what I can do is I can click and drag over H, I, J, and K up here. And when I do that, I choose all of that data. I'm going to quickly look over this data and make sure that this data makes sense. In other words, all of these temperatures in Kelvin are about in the same range. All of these Fahrenheit data is about in the same range. And all of this Celsius. I don't want to mix up the two. If I do, it's no biggie, but we're going to see that it will really stand out in the data. I also want to check the dates to make sure that they're all okay, that they're in consecutive order, and I didn't accidentally put 0202 instead of 2020, because if I do, again, it's going to show up in the data. Once I'm convinced that all the data looks good, I am going to go over here to Insert Chart and click on that. And there's my temperature chart, or at least the beginning of it. That's pretty good. I see a range over here from 0 to 400 because we're dealing with Kelvin. And over here, the Kelvin reached above 300, so it automatically goes to 400 up here. And down here, I can see this must be my Celsius, and this is my Fahrenheit data. There's a big gap between here, though. I really don't need that. And since this is all under 100, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an X, Y, Y graph. In other words, I've got a y-axis here. I'm going to make a y-axis over here as well. And I'm going to have this axis, this y-axis, be Fahrenheit and Celsius to make the variation of these two a little bit more clear. And over here, I'm going to put Kelvin. How do I do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is customize. And I want to just point out chart style and chart and axis titles. And we'll be changing those in a little while. And I really want to point your attention to this series. If I click the caret on series and it says apply to all series and left axis or right axis, I want to put the Kelvin over here on the right axis. So I'm going to go to this caret associated with apply to all series. I'm going to click that, and I'm only going to click the Kelvin. And I'm going to put the Kelvin on the right axis, not the left axis. So I'm going to click this caret and click right axis. Now look what's happened. Now I have temperature 0 to 100, and I'll make this my Fahrenheit and Celsius. And over here, I have my Kelvin temperature 0 to 100. So far, so good. Now I'm going to make sure that I have a detailed title stating what, where, and when at the top, that my graph axes are labeled with units and have a scaling statement. And since I have 3 graph axes, I'm going to make sure that each is labeled with units and have a scaling statement. So I'm going to go to Chart and Axis Titles. And I'm going to start with my chart title. And here I see temperature K and temperature F and temperature C. I don't think I need all the temperatures, so I'm just going to edit those out. I only really need one of them. Now it says temperature K, temperature F, temperature C, and that's fantastic. I'm going to put where this is in Piedmont, California, and when it was September 2020. So in Piedmont, California, September 2020. There. Now that's a great title. I know exactly what this graph is about. I know for where it pertains and for when it pertains. Now I'm going to go to one of my axes. Let's start with my horizontal axes. Horizontal down here, like the horizon. And it says date. I'm going to change that to September. And I am going to put the units of days in. And now my scaling statement, since every one of these lines is 7 days, I'm going to say one line equals 7 days. There's my x-axis. Now I'm going to go to my vertical axis, which is the left-hand axis over here. And I'm going to call that temperature in I'm going to say degrees Fahrenheit and Celsius. And I'm going to add my scaling statement. One line equals 25%. Or degrees, excuse me. Now I'm going to go to my right vertical axis. And I'm going to put in that this is temperature in Kelvin. And my scaling statement, one line equals, in this case, It's 100 Kelvin. 100 Kelvin. Ta-da! I think I'm going to include the lines in there. I think I want to plot my null values. So I'm going to go to chart style now. And I'm going to choose plot null values. There. Now I see all of my lines. I see Celsius, I see Fahrenheit, and I see the Kelvin up here. Now I can click and move to my own sheet. And it labels it chart 6. It won't label yours chart 6, but I can change that and I can put temperature. September 2020. So here's my moon graph, and here's my temperature graph.